By the
Of
way,
course, yeah.
great platform you're having. We already like checked everything out, and like I think we are for sure your monthly payer because like the stuff you put there is like it's really
Thank you very
really
much.
because especially like when you don't have like we don't have that much time to like watch the like Swedish games themselves, but when you like provide that like kind of yeah those like quick insights that are really like summarizing like game and taking the most out of it, I think it's great. So.
That makes me happy. Yeah, I'm trying to do like one way of poor man's analytics for every game analysis, so that people can just take away one way of analyzing the game per game. Of course, that's not going to hold up for the eternity. Sometimes I'm going to have to reuse some stuff and do a second or a third or a fourth one. But yeah, thank you very much. It feels like it's, of course, something that doesn't really exist, and I guess we're probably a limited amount of people who could actually pull it off.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
thank you so much. It feels really good. It's so I've been thinking about this for like 10 years literally, and I never got a chance because I was always involved, of course, and when I was coaching the Swiss team, of course I didn't want to do it.
Yeah,
So it feels good.
yeah, that's great. I mean, yeah, that's the most important thing, right? But yeah, I mean, we were also like having so many like floorball conversations, and it feels like the whole floorball community is kind of it's really small, but at the same time we are not really connected, right? Like every like you know the people you know, but you don't really know anybody outside of it. So this is kind of like, I mean, we would probably never in our lives like talk to you if we didn't have like a platform where to talk. So
That is true. In case we just wouldn't bump into each other on the night of the where the WFC ends, right? Where everyone's friends with everyone, which is of course such a cool
for
thing.
one night, right?
Yeah, exactly. For one night, everyone loves everyone.
Yeah. Except the Swedes versus Finns, so that's
Yeah, that's true. They will never really like each other. That is true. I've just had the, of course, the pleasure of working like 7 years with Esa Jussila. So if I had anything against Finns, that would be washed away right now. One of the best guys there is.
Yeah, that is really nice to hear that, like your breakdown when you mention also like negative aspects about that, and it's like really important that even though we are all friends, we can like talk openly about it because sometimes you
Yeah.
hear opinions and it's like I'm friends, so I'm not gonna say this and that. But if you have a constructive and like informative criticism, it's only gonna grow the sport, and that's the most important thing right here. So
Yeah, 100% agree. And I think my of course we're gonna talk about this later on, but my big thing all the time has been like I'm a kind, pretty, friendly dude. But
yeah,
I've always survived by just being honest all the time. Just
yeah,
being, keeping to floorball, talking about floorball, then I feel I don't have to please anyone. I could just say whatever I feel like as long as I, would tell it to somebody's face.
yeah.
And that's kind of how I've built my entire career, just saying it the way it is, but like with a positive tone, being a nice guy, but actually just saying the way it is. And
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, I mean that's how you build trust, right? Like
yeah,
at least like I think humble people don't like people who are like over sugarcoating or then just like being secretive or so on. So I think that's like the correct balance you should have also like as a
yeah,
coach. Then the players trust you, then they trust your decisions, they trust like what input you're giving them. So like it also like goes both ways, and then the
yeah,
team be more successful in the end. So
yeah, yeah,
makes
totally
total.
true.
But yeah, so how much do you know about us? I'm just thinking if we should do like a quick introduction of like who are we, or
I know you guys. I'm big fan of both of you as players. I don't know anything about the Floorball Show. I haven't heard anything because I'm a journalist.
yeah,
Next to being a floorball coach, so these are the two degrees I have from the university. So it's been so tough for me to try to read floorball stuff. So I kind of stayed out of floorball media for like 12 years or something like that.
yeah,
But I'm into it now a little bit, of course, again because of my platform and stuff like this. But like from a floorball perspective, I know both of you. I know the color of your blades. I mean, I'm big fan of both of you. You're amazing players, and I've loved Latvia for like 4 or 5 years until you really got up there and started doing stuff with a win against the Czechs in Prague. I think from that on, so I know you guys.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, what color is our blades?
Actually, I think Petris is still on the. You're both white, right?
Yeah, we are
Yeah,
white.
yeah.
Even though I'm changing the blades every other week, he knows.
I just have the pictures of you scoring against us in Birmingham, for an example, and Gustav's with you. Of course, it's the last WFC, but I think Petris, your goals there as well tells me a white right shooting blade, so I'd go white. Yeah.
Yeah, it's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. That means you really know everything about it. There is also.
Yeah, exactly. You know the blade color, then you know your friends.
Yeah, exactly.
One more thing. Do you have like some time you have to leave, or you are? Or
no, I'm all good.
Because
is the family?
My girlfriend. Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. My girlfriend is traveling so much now, and I'm the stay-at-home guy. So my girlfriend is coaching the Swedish women's national team.
Okay,
so she's the one traveling now, and she was gone a couple of days now, so she will handle the kids tonight, and I'm free.
How did that happen? How did you meet? Like that's like such that's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. We met like, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago or something like that. We actually met at the Czech Open when I was coaching Pixbo and Lynn was playing for Dalen, the women's side, and then we started dating maybe a year later, and then she came down to Gothenburg, and then we went to Switzerland together, and now we're in North Sweden where she's from. So yeah.
And you also told,
yeah.
So we have a next guest, I guess, ready for.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like we can bring the whole family and so.
Yeah, just sit her down next to me and do a double. No, she's it's cool.
Yeah, how much is floorball going? How big of a topic is floorball in the household?
Actually, way less than you'd imagine. But that's partly because, of course, because of my history being a coach for so long now, and Lynn having played, and then being a little bit coaching. We kind of made an agreement that it probably wouldn't make sense for her to talk too much to me, because then she'd turn into some kind of weaker copy of me. Yeah. And she'd be starting to say my things, but with her words, which I think is also a little bit bad. So she's been, I've of course told her that, if something really fucks up sometime, then for sure come to me and I'll help you out with stuff. But it's probably better for her and for me if she tries to find her own way. But of course, we have been talking a lot of floorball, like when we were living in Switzerland, Lynn was pregnant, for example, and we watched so much floorball, so she of course knows my stuff already, but we tried to did it like a concerted effort to make sure that she did not turn into a copy of me.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And
it does.
Yeah, it's still probably not easy to do, right? Because it happens subconsciously. Like if you just talk and you agree with something, then you're like, it just happens that you just overtake those ideas.
Yeah, that is 100% true. It's just, the thing is just get kids and then it's all good, because you have no chance, you have no time when you're awake and you actually have energy enough to talk. So you just get 2 kids and then it's all good. Then it's all good. You just have to take care of them, make sure they survive, and then you go to bed.
Yeah, that's the cycle of life.
That's the cycle of life.
Yeah, we are live, and we have a special guest today, David Jansson, or how we should pronounce it.
David.
Yeah, I mean, so open to whatever actually, but it's the A sound is really weird in Swedish, so it would be like a David Jansson.
David.
Yeah, it's this weird A sound that almost no other language has, but I'm good with everything. I've lived in Denmark for 2 years, so I have to tolerate everything after that, because they are crazy.
How did they call you in Switzerland?
Actually, it's David is a name there, but it's like David.
Yeah.
And then Jansson they can handle, so it's not too far away. They just changed the A sound. That wasn't too bad.
Okay. So, little backstory how we got here. Like a week ago, actually, Gustav sent me a link of this video about analysis of World Championship Final 2024. David's YouTube, and I would suggest everyone to check it out. And as every day, me and Gustav started to geek about this video as well, and there was a conversation about, it would be so cool someday to have this guy on this platform and maybe talk with him. And we were just like dreaming maybe. And one day later, Gustav texted me, and I got his number, and let's make a podcast 1 week later. So that speaks on how I think connected floorball society is, and that's one of the best parts about all this, and how open David is also about this kind of stuff. So yeah, I think welcome David to the show. And,
Thank you very much, guys.
And Gustav's, maybe you can introduce a little bit more about David, and then we can get on.
I will talk a little bit more what we're having here. So, David, born in Jönköping, right?
Yep, very well pronounced.
Oh, really? Thank you.
Yep.
A city of pizzas and churches, as
exactly.
And I guess you grew up with floorball, right? Floorball and football were the kind of the two main sports you were having there. At some point, chose to play floorball, and at the age of 17 already, did you debut for Jönköping's IK in SSL?
Yeah, I did. Called Elitserien at the time. It was before they started branding it with the Swedish Super League kind of thing. And I did when I was 17, and I played like 7 seasons or something like that. And Jönköping is actually one of these teams that has been more or less in the top league in Sweden all time. And it's the club started 86 or something like that. So it's a traditional club for sure.
Yeah, okay, that's really interesting. Was 17 years of age like early at that time?
It was early, but of course, floorball at the time in Sweden, if you understood how balls bounce and, you're a little bit competitive, you could make it. Like the difference, of course, is you guys are athletes now. You didn't really need to be an athlete at the time, but I was pretty good at it. Like I was a good SSL player on a medium team, kind of. And then I had a season with Pixbo, for example, where I didn't make it higher than the third line, but I was decent for sure.
Yeah, and also won a junior national championship, right?
Yeah, we had a heck of a team there. I'm born 1980, and we got almost everyone who was good, like in the southern parts of Sweden. So I think we won the final 7-0 or something like that. It was crazy. So, and none of our players were actually the age that was allowed. So we were allowed to be born 79, and all of our players were born 80, and we won the final 7-0. So that was a strong team for sure.
It was kind of the golden team of like basically the whole age. Yeah. At the same time, like I guess we all know who are here listening to this podcast, floorball is not a professional sport still. And you understood at an early age that you need a higher education. So you went on to earning a bachelor's degree in actually 3 degrees, right? But the 2 main ones that are more related to sports would be sports science and in journalism, right?
Yep, that's exactly how it was. So I moved to Gothenburg to study journalism, and then realized that you had to study a year of something else to even apply for journalism. Then I started with sports, and then I liked it so much that I kept on doing that, and took both of these degrees, and then a third degree in a bachelor degree in Swedish as well, while I was in Switzerland and had nothing to do on daytime. So yeah, I figured it would be good for me, but then I kind of figured that if I can make money enough to make a living out of floorball, I'll do that, and then I'll take journalism as my plan B, and it worked out.
Yeah, exactly. So you noticed the lack of floorball coaches, and at that point you were so connected to the sport that you decided that you could build a career out of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, not wanting to sound egoistic in any way, but I thought it was pretty clear that there's a path there because of just the low level of education on the floorball coaches at the time. So yeah, it paid off.
Yeah, exactly. So then basically you started. You went on to work at a floorball school, right? Coaching and teaching floorball, basically as a floorball instructor, so to say. And basically around the same time, did you also lead a Danish club at first, and then later a Swedish club then?
Exactly. I started. I had 2 years in Denmark where I played and was an assistant coach. So I tried some of my stuff, and then I went to Floorball Könitz in Switzerland 2 years, and then back to Pixbo 4 years, and then the Swiss national team 8 years.
Okay, so you already kind of like summed up the next couple of years that you had. But yes, as you said, you were a head coach for the Swiss men's national team for 8 years, right? A pretty long time, I would say, and also managed to win Sweden after 66 consecutive attempts of trying.
That's crazy.
To yeah, and even almost got the chance to make it to the final. Unfortunately, that shootout was in the favor of Sweden. But for example, from my side, I remember that I was very little, and I had like my floorball friends, and we were like watching the World Championships, and we saw that hey, like Switzerland is going to overtime with Sweden. That's like so crazy, because even at that time there was such a big difference between like this, like Sweden and Sweden, Finland, and then the rest of the nation. So I would say that's pretty impressive, right?
That was a great game, and obviously these 8 years, like you said, it turned out to be 8 years, which was amazing. And I've always taken pride in staying in one spot for a longer period of time, like Pixbo 4 years, and the Swiss association them for 10 years, but 8 years as a men's coach. We did some really good things, beating the Swedes, drawing the Swedes a couple of times. I think we beat the Finns maybe 35-40% of the time. But we also, of course, had a couple of games in a couple of years that weren't great. But I thought all in all, we did a very competitive try. We were also really close in Helsinki 2021. I think the Corona postponed one where I thought we were the better team against the Swedes. But of course, that doesn't help. It's about scoring goals, and the Swedes did that. But yeah, it was an amazing run. I love the floorball community. Thanks for having me, by the way, guys. And me answering yes to your request was a no-brainer. Obviously, I told you guys before, I'm a big fan of both you as players. I like the Latvian national team, and I've almost never been coming across someone in the floorball world that isn't a nice guy. So thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. And then to finish off, at 2021, you were recognized as the kind of a floorball expert. So you joined the International Football Federation for the Hall of Fame selection committee. Is that right?
That is true, yeah. That was very interesting. Like, I Googled how it works in the NHL because it felt like no one actually knew what we were doing. So I tried to, I mean, I guess it's been a part of my entire life. I think, when I've been in school and we had some kind of group thing that we were doing, like some kind of work that was supposed to be put into the teachers, I was always the guy, taking care of everything, and then sitting at night doing a couple of extra hours just to make sure that it looks good. That's kind of been who I am, and I think it felt like that at times during that process as well, actually.
Yeah, okay. So did you decide on, did you understand like what is the kind of idea of the Hall of Fame selection committee? Are you are helping to honor the sports legends, right?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, the big thing there is the criteria, how it works, because of course it's a huge honor being listed in a Hall of Fame. So of course also the process and the voting and everything has to reflect the big honors, so to speak. So that was the big thing, trying to find out who was available and how you could be eligible for it and how the voting would work. And there's a weird system to it in the NHL that we more or less copy pasted.
Okay, I mean, that makes sense, so why not? And then to finish off at 2024, it's a full circle, and you are now also currently coaching a club in Sweden called Okero IF, right?
That is actually not true. Until here, you'd made your homework so well. There might be another David Jansson in Öckerö, because it's an island outside of Gothenburg. So that might be true. I'm working as a game and player developer for Team THORENGRUPPEN here in Umeå, like 60%, and then the rest of it. I'm doing this my web portal Xprogress.se.
Okay, yes, and that's what I wanted to ask you. Basically, can you maybe kind of tell a bit about your like platform, because obviously me and Pete, we have been looking through it, and we are like really amazed by the content you're having, and we cannot get enough of it, so we're waiting for the next videos to come out. So yeah, just let the people, let the listeners know a little bit what that is and why did you make this platform.
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you so much for your kind words. Yeah, I've been looking for this. I've been looking for being like 50%, 60% ish employed so that I would have the time to do it. So I've been thinking about this for like 10 years. So what I'm basically trying to do is, well, one, I'm providing drills. So there are new drills coming every week, and there are maybe, I don't know, 50, 60 drills in there right now that are structured after when you want to use them during practice. So there's this practice structure in place, and then you can click on where on the timeline during a practice you're at, and then you'll get videos that are filmed. Most of them are filmed from the sports center here in Umeå, Nule Arena, and some of them are hand-drawn. So that's one part, but that's actually maybe the least interesting part. The other part is the game analysis part, where every week I do a tactical post or a game analysis post. And now, of course, when we're in the playoffs, I do mostly game analysis posts. So I take a subject that I think would be probably defined as poor man's analytics. So I look for something that people can do without AI machinery, without expensive analysis programs. And I try to show how you can measure floorball. But I do not want to go into being like the complete nerd who doesn't care about the actual sport. So I mix it with eye test. So I do numbers plus what my brain sees. And I try to force these two worlds together. So I exemplify the numbers through video clips and try to use my knowledge in terms of showing coaches and players and everyone who's a fan of the sport what I'm seeing through my head. Hopefully the big goal is to educate people so that the next time they watch a game, they watch it with slightly different eyes. And I might as well just plug or bang my own drum a little bit here, saying that someone wants to try this out for 7 days free. There's xprogress.se/podcast, and then you can have a test trial period of a week if you want to just get a feel for the content that is on the platform. So it's a dream come true a little bit, and it mixes my journalism with my floorball. So I'm a happy camper, and it started out really, really well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's great, and I think we also now, even me and Pete, even though we're kind of players who are already played for a while this sport, we can still see kind of find new things and also look at the game a bit differently. And so definitely I would suggest everyone listening to this go check out the platform. But yes, so moving on from the career, so I think everybody now has a clear idea of what has been your career and what have you been able to do, which I think is quite impressive. I think we can move on to the kind of a big topic still. I think World Championships 2024 just finished in Malmo, where also both me and Petter were a part of it, and I think we can do like a quick rundown to kind of summarize what happened, and how do you look at this World Championships as a whole?
Yeah, there were some really interesting games. Obviously, I remember I said back home here already when I saw the draw that I think Switzerland's gonna have it in for a tough challenge in the quarterfinals if they're facing you guys. So obviously the group stage game there would be of big importance for them to try to get away from you. Because I mean, you've had great swagger on your team for a lot of years now. But of course, the Swiss team took a little bit more of a backseat approach to how they played this time, and played a lot of low event games. And I figured that if it would turn out to be low event against you guys, that you would have a very good chance of winning that game. And that's exactly what you guys did. So that, of course, opened up the tournament a little bit. Then, of course, the Swedish game against Germany was a really weird one. So I was there for IFF, so I did some color commentator stuff during the tournament. And that was a really weird game. I haven't analyzed it, but I'm actually going to do it on the platform, I think, sooner or later, just to find out what kind of game it actually was, because I still feel it was an 11-2 game for Sweden. It's just one of those nights where they were struggling to get the ball into the net. And of course, they wound up being nervous probably at the end, right? But I don't agree with people saying that Sweden was horrible in the game. I think Sweden did not have a functional pressing game during the entire tournament, and that you backfired on them. But I mean, more often than not, they are not going into a game against Germany thinking they'll have to play pressing. So that was, of course, an interesting one. And the entire Finland journey is, of course, very interesting, which then culminates in the finals. Of course, they have a tough game in the group stage against you guys, right? They win with 1 goal.
Yes, one goal difference.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that from, of course, Esa Jussila is a great friend of mine, and we've talked about this in retrospect, and I know that they got slaughtered in the Finnish press during, like, before the games. People thought they'd nominated the wrong guys, and then they started out pretty poorly, and of course you guys were energized and played well against them, and then they never really got rolling, the Finns. They just somehow found a way through the tournament, right?
Yeah.
Then of course, yeah,
the game against Sweden, though, the group stage, I think like that was kind of where they would get the ball rolling, like at least mentally.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, I actually kind of forgot about that game, but out of that game, of course, existed. You're 100% right. And then coming into the final game, I did the game on the platform, numbers wise, and it's a really weird thing, but it happens at times in floorball. Like, so the Swedes are up 4-0, and they're not really good. Like, they're doing nothing with the ball. They get rewarded because the Finns are really bad at the time, and they look nervous, and of course they have had such turnover on D, with no Sabonen, and all of a sudden they have no Tatu Väänänen, and they have these playmaker defenders are
also no Stenfors, which was I think like a big topic of, and also we're questioning that, like not taking kind of the defensively probably the best player in Finland, like
experience.
Yeah, that is true. That is true, though I thought that they mainly lacked like ball skills, and some of the defenders that are supposed to be good with ball were not very good in the game. So it felt at the time like they'd gone wrong with the way they constructed their D, I felt. But then, of course, Sweden are up 4-0 without actually being good, which might be a problem for them in retrospect. This is, of course, me, galaxy braining a little bit, but felt like they felt they didn't need to do much more, and then the Finns slowly grew into it with a cheap PP goal, and then Justus Kainulainen just going guns blazing, and then all of a sudden, like, it's the mental game, and then the Swedes are all of a sudden under pressure, and the whole thing about floorball players not being used to playing in front of like 12,000 people is, of course, also a huge thing, right? How many other championships do you have where players go from playing in front of 761 players to like 10,000 plus?
Yeah,
it's of course really crazy, and then somehow that Finnish group had something going for them, right? They must have had something going for them. They must have been successful in going us against the world, because, like I said, they got slaughtered in Finnish media. Yeah. And they during the tournament, like as I said that after the tournament, that everyone then knew that Astala was great. All of a sudden, in retrospect, everyone thought that it was good to have Astala and the Kainulainen line playing together and stuff like this.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Their line, I would say, in some ways, won the tournament. I would even
so good, so good, and so
all of them lefties. Like, yeah, where have we seen that in floorball before? All lefties really like dominating the field. I think it's
no, I don't think like that. I think Sami Koski, would like to have a word in this discussion. Probably like just him, but I think he never I guess he was never part of such a successful line, and they tilted the court during that game, especially the second half of the game. So the Swedes got a little bit lower on defense, and they got a couple of good shifts in the second period. And of course, when it goes to overtime, it's a coin toss, and this is of course also a little bit where I think you could critique the Swedish sides now over a couple of world championships. Like, they very well could have lost to us in Helsinki in the semifinals, where at least after 2 periods we for sure deserved to be in the lead. Of course, didn't, but could have. And then they were in this penalty shootout against the Finns in Switzerland 2022, which of course also is a coin toss. And then you take it to overtime against the Finns, it's another coin toss. So sooner or later you lose a coin toss, and that's what happened here.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we have to also mention the Akola from Finland. I think like he managed to get basically 2 power plays like on his own, and those were in the kind of the decision makers in the end. And then you said that it's kind of like a bit like lucky goals for Finland. I think we can look at it from another perspective and say that maybe Sweden was not prepared enough. And I mean, from all that power play, I think it was clear that this one guy called Justus Kainulainen will shoot. So
Yeah.
I think like maybe they could have done a better job on like blocking his shots maybe. But,
Yeah, they probably could. They of course could have, but I still thought they kept balls on the outside. That first goal is a weird, I think, a face-off for a free hit in the corner, and the ball bounces a little bit weird, and then it comes cross court and he scores. And the other one, they just roll the ball around and he just hits the top corner. So against the best goalkeeper in the world. So I partly agree, for sure. But I didn't think the goals were products of them actually doing something brilliant. Him for sure, but
I mean, the power play structure as it is, it was pretty basic. You would say that it's not like kind of like fast passing game where they create something like out of the formation they're having. So yes, I think we could agree with that. But so all in all, would you say that Finland did deserve to get this win in the final? Like looking at the data.
Yeah, I think data-wise, I don't remember exactly. I'd have to send people to the Xprogress platform to look at it, but I remember that Sweden did not really deserve to win, at least. And the ball is in their court to make sure that they. I mean, if you are the best team on paper, which I think almost everyone agrees that the Swedes are, they are of course the ones who should make it a little bit more high event, do something more with the ball, just to make sure that it doesn't turn into a coin toss. So I don't know if I'd like to say that like the Finns deserved it in that manner, but I think if the Swedes do not take control of the game more than they did, then they did not deserve to win the Finns.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense, I think.
Would you say that's like coaching responsibility to how they speak to the team, or was it lines just not feeling confident about the way they're leading? So how would you say, like, you have been there on the coaching side, so how you see that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think mainly I try to stay out of being too much criticizing other coaches, and it's not because I don't feel like I have the balls to do it. I for sure could. It's just you'd want to be there to listen to them and hear what they actually think before you can criticize their idea. But from an outside perspective, I feel that Sweden did not manage to find a system to play full court press during all of the Nordén Brottman years. And that bit them a little bit because they had then trouble when the Finns started gaining confidence to actually win balls. And if you don't get a lot of like change of possession, then the pace is going to be slow in the game. And that, of course, benefits the team that isn't the best on paper. And so in that terms, I think they could have done more with the ball and they could have done more without the ball to just increase the pace of the game. And that probably would have been an advantage for them.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've kind of like concluded the final. Now, kind of after this championship, I think of course, like the Finland is the first like big thing, but like looking at the world of floorball now, I think they're in the history of floorball, that has always been the top four, and in some ways, I think it's like now maybe is it a time to like question like what happens with top four now? So I think it's like a question to ask for you. Maybe you have an opinion on that.
I mean, for sure it is. And one part of it is the results you guys have done with that Latvia, meaning beating the Czechs in Prague, beating us at the World Games 22 in Birmingham, beating the Swiss now in the quarterfinal, which of course is a way bigger win than winning at the World Games. But, still accumulating a couple of these wins now. And I think we're definitely slowly getting away from the top four the way you have improved, which is really cool. And of course, we're waiting for maybe Slovakia, Germany, something happening in Southeast Asia. If you want to look at it at a bigger perspective, something happening North America, even though I'm very skeptical of something happening in North America, but I think Southeast Asia has more potential actually. But like the Germans, some big European countries that actually have a lot of indoor courts and potential to buy boards, that's probably where it has to happen. But this is a thing though, guys. I think it's so it's obvious to us because we're living here and now on this earth and we're into floorball, and life doesn't have like a fast forward button, but we probably need the fast forward button because we're here and now and we're analyzing every day and we love floorball, so we think about it every day. But it's probably just a it's a matter of time. I think the game has everything. So that's the thing that I keep on coming back to. I, for example, love the amount of goals that are scored in floorball at the moment. Like, I love when a game ends 8-6 because it means that it might have been, 7-3 in the end of the game, and it's not over. The ball is never further than 3 seconds away from being in either net in floorball, because there are no offsides and nothing like this. So I think we need to get away from the filters in our heads that still think hockey and still think football when it comes to scores, because floorball is of course not like that at all. And I think that's a big thing. So that speaks for it. I think it also speaks for it is that the sport works so good at 3-on-3 with your friends, in some kind of small venue where your company has a small 10 by 15 meters of sports space where you could do something, and it obviously works in front of 10,000 live broadcasted in the big TV markets and stuff like this. So I feel the sport has what it takes. Like, when I go and watch hockey, I do not think it's a superior sport, but we need to be the ones who are CEOs in the companies, I think, like, for it to actually, manifest itself.
Yeah, definitely. I will agree for sure. It's just, I mean, if something should be missing, right? Because you told all the components, and I think those work, but still we are somewhere behind. So the question, I guess the obvious question that has been asked for a while, when is floorball joining the Olympics, and why isn't it currently a really a big candidate for that? Is it the lack of competition that we're having, or I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there isn't necessarily that much more competition in cross-country skiing, for example, though it has the tradition, of course. But I think there's some kind of tricky catch-22 here that we need to solve, in terms of, players need to practice more to be able to make the sport more entertaining, and then they need to be not employed 100% or 80% or whatever, and then for that it needs money. And for money, it needs a better product. And for a better product, it needs money. And then we get caught in this catch-22, right? In this loop. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's... but I think a big thing here, too, I see in Sweden that, the league structure hasn't really settled. I think there are more Mullsjös out there, where some kind of team will come up from a smaller town where they're just crazy about floorball, and they'll establish themselves, and they will push the economical situation maybe further in the long run. And I think we also need to see the series systems in the big countries settle down. But yeah, it is frustrating for sure. But there's also another side of this, which probably you guys, at least maybe you haven't thought about it like this, but I think you've probably noticed this. One thing that I really love is, for an example, when I was the coach of the Swiss national team, of course, life is tough in Switzerland in terms of the business side of it, and the work side of it, and the school side of it. There are a lot of demands on people. But everyone who actually made it to the Swiss national team get-togethers and stuff like this, they're there because they love the sport. They're not there because they don't know how to do anything else, and they're 34 years old, and they just want to sign another 3-year deal to keep on playing hockey for a couple of years more until they get into depression because they don't know what to do with their lives. And of course, floorball people are there because they love the sport, and that's also a thing that I don't want to get rid of somehow. But I know I can't have the cookie and eat the cookie. So I'll probably have to get rid of that thing sooner or later.
Yeah, definitely. I think what you mentioned there, I think it's also another beauty of the sport, right? That people are never counting on floorball to be the only thing in their lives, in some way. So we have to kind of accept it, and that's also what's beautiful about it is the passion that we're seeing.
Yeah.
All of us three sitting here, I mean,
yeah,
it's just passion, right? It's just pure love for the sport, and I think that's also another thing that everybody who loves the sport really understands, and we can in that way really relate to each other. So yeah,
for sure.
That's definitely another side of it for sure.
Going back to the World Championships a little bit, you were 8 years as national team coach. So how was it watching it from the side and absorbing it from different kind of view? And did you still support Swiss, or
I did.
How was it?
Yeah, that's a good question, Petris. It was weird, but the thing was that in my role as a Swiss way coach, which was me like philosophically being with a lot of the staffs, the U19s, the U23s, the women's, but we decided that I was not supposed to be engaged with the men's side, which I think was a good decision because of me having been there for 8 years and letting Johan Schönbeck do his stuff. So I was actually disconnected from them for the entire campaign, and I think that helped out a little bit. And of course they chose a strategy and a way to approach the games that I would never have done, and that of course also made me a little bit more disconnected in terms of that. But it felt weird, and I for sure did support them. I like Johan Schönbeck a lot. I like the Swiss Unihockey people. I like the players. So, but it was actually less weird than I expected it to be, and I think that was because of the distance that I was able to build up during these 2 years.
I'm touching more maybe about this our biggest win in Latvia on Swiss against Latvia in quarterfinals. How was it watching that game, and what do you think? Like, what are strengths for each team and weaknesses, and how it played out?
Yeah, like I said, I had already mentioned it back home before I went to the tournament, so I was a little bit scared from the Swiss side, and I also I was fascinated to see it play out and see what approach the Swiss would take, because there was of course also a chance that they would come guns blazing and try to put pressure on you guys. And then the first period, I think I clocked the first scoring chance for them after 17 minutes or something like that. Like, they didn't do anything at all. And you guys were not great either, but you guys had this swagger again where you look confident with the ball. I know you're really good at zone exits to get out of the zone when you pressure you guys, which is of course also not an argument for not going pressing against you. But I felt that you showed swagger in the first period and they didn't do too much. And then I thought they slowly ate themselves into the game. And of course, them having the lead in the end before your nice goal, that of course, it felt that they were favorites still. But it's kind of the same thing with Sweden and Finland, just on another scale, right? If they're only one goal up with a couple of 7 minutes left of the game or whatever, then they are taking a big risk, because also if you pull the goalie, like, it's not that big of a thing to just score a goal for you guys. But I've said swagger 4 times already, but I think that was maybe the big thing in the end. Like, you guys played like you believed in what you did, and in the end it wasn't a random win. I don't know, have you seen any numbers from the game? Do you know how deserved the win actually was? Because it felt like it was a pretty tight game.
Yeah, it was. We have analytics in our team also, and it was, I guess, maybe the edge still was for Switzerland, but it was a tight game. So if it's tight in floorball, especially, that's why the sport is so good. That anything can happen in those tight games, and especially when it's not a series in World Championships. That's like,
100%.
Yeah, that's why it's a great sport, right? So I think it's kind of like a good time also to go into this topic of defense versus offense, right? So we just talked about kind of like passive playing, and you had a quote there that we both are aware of now, that you have said that the defenders are the most important players in offense and the wingers are the most important players in defense. So why is that? Like, around what did you kind of like build this quote that you're having?
Yeah, exactly. I think it started with maybe 10-15 years ago. I did a longer thing at the university when I was studying sports science, where I compared floorball scoring to handball scoring at the time, and I think over 50% of the goals were at the time came out of counterattacks. It isn't that way anymore. I mean, the skill with ball has become so much bigger, so it isn't that way anymore. But that's how I started thinking about it, because my big thing that popped up in my head was always, why are people standing there fighting for the face-off? The first face-off, you always see some kind of rough dude coming in, trying to be violent to win the ball. And then you just figure out, but it would have been better if you lost the face-off, because then you can counterattack. And that made me angry a little bit. So I started to think about that. How can we be better with the ball? And that's why when I started to understand that, the defender word is so rubbish because of the fact that they are the ones that decide if we're good or not with the ball. So they're the playmakers, or maybe a line has 2 or 3 playmakers, depending on how it's built. But for sure, the defenders are, like, I've built this entire system around decision making that you guys, if you keep on following xprogress.se, you will get into touch with my decision making system. But that's a lot about like putting people in better positions and stuff like this. So that's where I think the defensemen are the most important attackers. And the other way around, regardless of what defense system you have, like the first wave of your defense is by far the most important one. And there I can go back to Manuel Maurer from Switzerland, for an example. So when we started experimenting with analytics, like poor man's analytics in the Swiss national team, it's pretty obvious for us to see that he's like the ultimate bus driver when it comes to making results with and without the ball. So when he's with someone, they look great, and then he moves to another line, they don't look as good anymore, and he looks great. So he's one of those guys. Isak Rosén from Pixbo back in the day is another one, just so good forwards, but for sure the most important defender.
Yeah, exactly. I think we see something similar also in Ulriksson from Storvet.
Yeah,
the forechecking is. I don't think I've seen a player like that, to be honest. Like that, and what he's doing right now in the playoffs, that's also like really really impressive. But I hope we get into it later. But I think also Pete has like a good experience also from the same thing right now.
Yeah, actually, yesterday we had a first semifinals game against SPV, and it's a good challenge for us, a great challenge, and they won surprisingly for many people Nokia in the quarterfinal, which has been challenging for the title last couple of years already. And after the game, I was kind of thinking about the game, about our line's work, and preparing for this conversation a little bit also. And I remembered your philosophy topic about this, what Gustav just mentioned about this attackers being the first defenders and defenders being the first attackers. And I realized that this season, kind of accidentally, but it has happened that our line has become kind of topic of this of your philosophy, because I've been transitioning from winger to defender now. Alpo Laitila, I think you're a big fan of him also.
I love it. Yeah.
He is now defender, although we both the whole season first half of the season we're playing in center, in winger, in different positions, different lines, and of course Will Elastic is underrated as a defender and overall player, because he's been playing winger and scoring many goals over the years. But the level of understanding how he sees the game, and he can play center, although he doesn't like it. From conversations with him, I know that he loves scoring goals much more, and I understand that. And Nico Salo is also a magician with his brain, and we also have Tiivi Salakangas, who's an excellent winger and kind of fit for this line overall. Maybe not the greatest defender as you would from a basic standpoint, like from original story of him, but in this structure of us, he's been becoming like understanding and listening what he has to do, and he helps us a lot in also defense. And so this crazy line with 2 center wingers playing 2 defenders, and the center being able to play defender and center, and it's been working really great. And like since January we have played like, I don't know, 15-16 games now, and the deep analytics and statistics and plus minus of our line has been pretty incredible, I would say. And maybe after the season we will go deeper into this topic also, about my season. But,
that is amazing. Yeah, that's cool, Petrus.
I just wanted to say that I was listening, preparing for this conversation. I was listening to your philosophy and stuff, and it kind of reminded me about our season, and pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think that's cool, and I think it's also very overrated. Like you see it also in youth floorball, where people think that defenders need to be the ones staying back behind, and the center has to be some kind of bridge between the forwards and playing with a ball in floorball, you can do whatever you want to. And I'm actually doing a comparison right now of Akkola and André Andersson, who are both playing left D for Växjö and are probably the most polar opposites you can be. And I was tracking 2 periods of the Växjö Falun second game yesterday, and André Andersson almost does nothing on D because they have the ball all the time. Like, he doesn't even need to play D in terms of how we think of D. He just has the ball, and as long as he has the ball, then who gives a damn, right? He can just, then he doesn't really need to be a defender. He has the ball, so then he's an attacker. And that's lovely to hear, Petris. And of course, the names you're racking off there, very good players. And Nico Salo, I mean, is kind of a lot of times like comes down and steers the game from a playmaker position. So yeah, it's cool to hear. Makes me really happy, and yeah, I can totally understand and support that thought.
Yeah, for sure. And to continue like with this philosophy, I was interesting to see like how like I don't know if you would still do it, but for example, if you watch like a game, like how much attention do you take to kind of analyze the defense or like a line playing without the ball, or like how much the team plays with the ball. So basically, yeah. So how do you distribute like those two things, and where do you put your attention like the most?
That's a great question, Gustav. My head is like, I'm so injured from my history of watching floorball that it kills me when there's no structure on defense. Like when it's visually, I don't get what they're doing. Like there might be a structure, I just don't see it yet. Then it aches in my head. But that's the same thing with ball. Like bad decision making will force chaos in my head as well. I think if I had to choose, it's still with ball that is the main priority for me, because I think there are still more things to learn there. And I also kind of feel that you can defend with whatever system you want to in floorball. Like we've seen teams dominate with everything. Like Villa again were totally dominant with just 5 times man, and then Haninge and Storvreta and Falun at times have been just dominated with 2-on-2, and like you see everything happening tactically. And of course, a lot of teams now playing some kind of 1-2-2 or some kind of hybrid man thing. So I don't think it isn't that interesting to me, but decision making is really interesting to me. And I think that's probably also my unique selling point in terms of Xprogress, or in terms of whatever I'll do in the future, is putting words onto what people do with the ball, which of course is way tougher for coaches to do, right? Because you can watch at a game, you can copy a defense system, you can teach it to your team, and that's what people do. That's what floorball coaches do, because that's what they know. They know their low defensive system, so they teach their low defensive system. And this kills me. Like someone coming new to a team, instead of just letting the defense be the way it is, they then use August until like February of a season to just implement a new low defense system. And if they're lucky, they have the same results in February that they already had in August, and they wasted August until February by just doing defense stuff instead of like working with the ball, because it's really tough. Like it's way harder because it demands more of you.
Yeah. At the same time, I think I agree on certain parts, but at the same time, with a good defense, doesn't that also, because you said previously that basically almost like more than 50% like goals are scored on counters, right? And good defense mean you get more counters, right? So if you really like perfect something and then you kind of get more counters, that also means more scoring chances in a way.
For sure. I just think that investing like 2 months of your season into the old system that you already had in place, doing some small changes to it, will equal the same results almost. Like if you change system and go 6-7 months with a new system, I just don't think it equates into a better result. But for sure, defense is important. Like structure, I think is important to have. I just think it's overrated and overblown. And nowadays, when I measure that threshold of 50% counterattack goals does not hold up anymore. Like I would say it's 60-40 for the team with the ball.
I would add also that about this defense, I think it's so important that the line understanding.
Yeah.
Because every team, every line has a different strengths, and no team can be with the same identity, I think, through every line, because then that means like that's a weakness for a team. Because we play so many different changes and we can match up the different lines. And I think, for example, I came to the Classic, and first thing what I noticed and what's maybe blueprint of why this team works is the freedom the players have of philosophy, and because we are young sport still, and I believe players have so much knowledge and sometimes even more about certain things than coaches can have. And we have great coach Juha Kivelehto who really understands that, and who can put his ego down and understand that we also have an idea, and we also and then we can work together towards that. And also in our national team we have really have a big admiration for our coach in Heikki Luukkonen, who also gives us freedom. And coach's job, how I like to see it, is that they give certain ideas and kind of stepping points to making us think and achieve. And I think you have touched on this also previously in podcasts I have listened. And that's a big topic, because also to add on to Gustav's point that it's important to have good defense to create those counterattacks, but putting that much attention on that and not putting attention on what you do when you win the ball and when you create this counterattack. It's super important, and those things happen more often than not. And even the best defenses will have some lapses of, like, for example, this line will match up really great against this great defensive line, and still like the offense can be much better. So
that's good summary.
Yeah. So you could basically say like a line who can play like perfect offense will win, like, or play with the ball almost all the time against like the best like defensive line, basically, because when you can like actually like create things, so to say.
I would say part of our line's success is also that, you might say that me and Alpo Laitila are not the best defenders, but our game understanding is so high that we create those turnovers because we understand how the opponent player is playing. And in floorball, I think the defense is a little bit, this defensive player is a little bit overrated. I still have huge respect, and I have got a lot of value from players like Lauri Stenfors, and get like big knowledge how to play defense. And taking that knowledge in this new era of game and how we are developing is super important. Those players are still important, but now everybody has to go also in offense, as you mentioned in your philosophy. So it's so interesting topic. We should make like another podcast about this.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And this thing that offense is indirect defense, why you're coughing up less balls, you're giving up less high danger chances from losing the ball and stuff like this, is of course the boring aspect of playing with the ball, but for sure that's a great benefit of being better with ball and increasing your decision making. So a good summary, Petris.
Yeah, and on that decision making, like how much, like, would you say is about like you as a coach, like giving inputs and like creating structures, and then like which part is about the actual like individual of like making those decisions when he's on the field, right? Because we make decisions on like half a second maybe, like so it happens like so fast that there has to be like a certain instinct, right? So where does the both things like basically land, like how much can you as a coach actually give?
Fantastic question. I think especially when being in Switzerland, where people are used to wanting systems for things, that was one of the bigger challenges for me when I came down, because I figured I wanted to give them some kind of system, but I did not want to put them in handcuffs and, like you said, take away the instincts of the game. So my system for decision making is a framework where basically I'm talking about like 3 or 4 different cases with a ball where risk and reward will go up and down depending on what's happening and what they're scanning and the difficulty of stuff. And what I think is very important for people to do is to not evaluate every single situation as one, but evaluate every single situation as 100 situations. So if you're on a 2-on-1, you're a lefty on the left side, you have a lefty on the other side. Well, the first thing is, where do you want the ball? Do you want the ball to be left or right in the beginning? Yeah, you want the ball to be left, because then the other lefty can one-time it once you hit a pass over. And then comes the next thing. What do you go for first? Do you want to look for the pass mainly, or do you want to look for the shot, and why? And the big thing for me is not the mathematics of this 100 situation thing. I don't want them running around thinking in equations and thinking maths, but I want them to go like, okay, I've been in this situation 4,500 times. I know I'm a lefty. I know my forward colleague on the other side is a lefty. I know he shoots like crazy. I know if he goes up and down now, I might play it over the central line without having to flip the ball to him. And 90 out of 100 times, I'll make that pass. So he can get 90 shots off from that side. And I can get 100 shots off from my side without playing the pass. But are my 100 shots better than his 90 shots? And that's where it stops. Like, it doesn't need to be more complicated than that. But if people can get that into their heads, like, am I looking for the 90 one-timers, or am I looking for the 100 wrist shots without the goalie moving? And that is, to me, a framework where they can still make their own decisions. It's not too complicated, but I gave them the framework, and I hopefully made their brain think about floorball in another way.
And there comes in that aspect of drills, what you are giving for people, like what kind of drills you are putting in your trainings regularly that influence this decision making also.
Yeah, exactly. I think the main thing there is just getting rid of as much warm up as possible. Like, I think in Sweden there's so much 20 minutes just running around doing the same drills you've done for 5 years in a row just to get the goalies warmed up. Like, make sure the goalies are as warm as they can athletically when they hit the court, and then do like 2 drills where you just smash balls at them like crazy, and then you go to skills, and then you go to decision making. You do not do warm up for 20 minutes. You do skills, you do decision making, you do progressive drills where it starts out easy and gets more tricky, and you make people think until they don't have to think anymore.
And also, like, this imitating of your playing, like how you can maximize the imitating of how you're gonna be in this situation or that situation. Like, I think the best players in these past generations have done some of their own training kind of between coaches' trainings, like where there's those 5 minutes of break, for example, between drills. Those greatest players maybe are doing something what they're gonna do in the game, or I'm gonna go in this sweeping shot and I'm gonna turn to the backhand. But you rarely see anything like that in any kind of drills. So, like,
true.
Yeah, that's super important.
Yeah, exactly. So also talking about like individuals and being individual specific, what would you say are the kind of the best players you have like ever coached, or the most impressive from your view? I think so. You've been close to a lot of really high level players, but I think this would be interesting to hear.
Yeah, I have, like, from a impact standpoint, I think Martin Östholm is up there among the absolute best ones. Jon Hedlund in net is up there. Manuel Maurer is up there. Henrik Kvist is a legend who I had. And then, of course, Jan Zaugg, both Hofbauers, Luca Graf, Christoph Bayer, Tim Braillard, Isak Rosén. So a lot of them, but Östholm has a special spot because of the fact that when he hit the court, he was like the archetype of that I was talking about, the defender being the most important forward. Like, I don't know, he was top of the scoring league. He was doing everything for us: speedy, good passing, heck of a shot, good head. So he's for sure up there. Daniel Kalebson is one of the most complete players I've ever had on my team. Also a great leader. And like I said, the Swiss names that I mentioned would be up there as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think maybe that's a bit more subjective, but I'm more interested in a guy called Martin Östholm, because I still have a picture somewhere. Maybe I can send it to you afterwards, but where I'm like I'm very little. I'm with my dad going to the World Championships in Göteborg. I don't know how is it pronounced. Correct?
Yeah, that's a tough one, Göteborg. But there's the international Gothenburg that you can go.
Yeah,
well.
yeah, exactly. And I don't remember what year was it. Was it
2014.
Yes, exactly. So I still have a picture there, and I remember like for as a kid, like seeing the kind of the top of the floorball. I mean, it stays in your subconscious like until now. Like I remember when I was entering the arena in Zurich, where I'm actually right now.
Yep.
in the World Championships in 2022, like my kind of inner child totally like remembered like that moment from 2014 when I entered the arena and saw like all the big guys like Nilsson and Östholm and Patrick Oman in the goal, and it was like so amazing. But yeah, I mean, like one player stood out, and that was Martin Östholm, and it's great for me to think that you have been like very close to him. So I'm kind of like interested in his like main qualities and what made him so special. I think like the obvious one is the shot, right? And I would be interesting to hear like has he like shot more than anybody else like outside of the like games, of course, but just as to how much repetition he has like gotten with the shot, and why did he have like such a strong shot as well?
Yeah, for sure. The 10,000 hours story kind of thing there is present there. I think always when you speak to these type of dudes, they always tell a story. They're often from like a smaller part of something where they had a key to some kind of a sports venue where they could go in. I actually don't know if Östholm is one of those guys, but it feels like that for sure. Like his just a number of repetitions. But I thought the big thing about him was that there was like he would. For an example, if you'd be pressured in the end of a game, let's say we were, I remember a game in Pixbo where we were up like 6-1 or 6-2 against Linköping, and they started coming back, and it was 6-5 all of a sudden, and I took my time out and did a thing that I often do, trying to turn the narrative a little bit. So I went, so guys, if I would have told you when we were in the bus heading here that you can climb into this game leading 6-5, 1 minute 20 seconds left, would you have taken it, or would you have gone no way, we're not taking that? Of course you would have taken that. This doesn't say that we were 6-1 up 5 minutes ago, which we were, but I'm just saying, would you have taken the 6-5? And of course everyone goes yes, and then some guys look shaky, and Martin just takes the ball and they try to pressure him, and he just dribbles the entire team and scores. Like that's the thing. He was so good at, like, his head was so at such a good place, and I always loved defenders to dribble because I think it's tactically the toughest thing you can do. Like, what do you say if you're the pressing team and someone just dekes you because he's just faster? And of course, you can't double team all the time all over the court because that doesn't work. So when they get back to the bench, then what do they do? Like, what do they do tactically? So I loved him. I loved that side of him, that he was mentally really strong, and he could outrun people, he could outshoot people, he could outpass people. He was, and he grew into a good leader. Like, he was not as mature, obviously, in his first years, like every player, but he grew into a good leader as well.
Okay.
And now I'm talking about him like it's past tense. He actually still plays. Of course, not exactly the same version of him.
Yeah. It's like that's what I remember. So that's why like the kind of the figure I had like then it's just interesting to see, because
so good.
Yeah, exactly, and also a part of the Swedish power play as well. So I think, really really impressive, and I think like another interesting player to go into would for us be like Jan Zaugg. I think for also for Pete, it's like interesting to hear because also really like. Yeah, like a player with such. I don't know if we have like another Jan Zaugg, right? Like the playmaking ability and the court vision, the calmness. I mean, there's like so much to him, right? So in the same way, maybe you can like talk or like explain what makes him so special for you.
Yeah, I would like to add also before David, as Gustav said, like about his history with Östholm, like how he inspired also maybe Gustav in many ways. I think. For me, there's been many players like that, and usually it's been actually defenders like Savonen. I loved. I now forgot the name, but the Hape defender. I think you know him. Is playing the national team also. Junkarinen. I'm so sorry. Those are two. Like, I just love seeing how they control the game. How they're never like under pressure in their movement, and they can just go around like Östholm did. And then 2017, when it was my second junior championship, maybe I saw this guy Jan Zaugg still with the hair, and I don't know. I never heard about him before. I don't know if he was a thing before that, but I just watched him play, and I just saw I had a dream one day to be the best player in the world, maybe. And if this guy gonna work hard, it's gonna be super hard for me because he's just so amazing. And then
I totally
following
get
him,
that feeling.
and just watching him and that championship, and then seeing him later in years, he moved to Sweden and just dominated Swedish league, and then just decided, yeah, that's good enough for me. I will go back, and like that's so interesting for me. That kind of player, like it's like in positive way, and also a little bit like questioning what's happening there. And so I would like to hear like about you, like great stories about him or your philosophy working with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you described it really well there. I think he's like talent wise, I don't know if I've seen anyone better, and he's also a great dude. Like he's a great guy. He would have been so good regardless of what he would have done sports wise. I think he's great golf, tennis, everything we do with the national team, and I think an underrated team guy. Like he's had, I remember, I don't know, I think it was it might have been Prague 2018, actually, that game that we mentioned before, the penalty shootout, where Jan actually shoots a penalty but does not score. Like during the overtime there, or in the end of the game or something like that, Luan Missini, the former Grasshoppers coach who was with me for all 8 years, just an amazing coach and great dude, he was calling the line changes for us. So he tried to scream the line that was at the court back because we had a free hit in the corner or something, and Jan just went, no, Luan, no, let them play, they're so good, let them go. Like he would do stuff like that. He would just, and he loves playing. Like he would want to jump onto the court. He was just let them keep on going. They're great. So he does a lot of these things under the radar that he doesn't get appreciated for. And just his shot, this thing where you feel like now he just decided to put it top corner. Like you just see, oh, okay, there's no one back door. I can't flip it to him. I'll have to put it top corner, and then he goes in and just puts it top corner.
Exactly.
He's so good. I think it might be true that if he'd had like a little more killer or a little less in his life that he cared about in terms of other sports and other things he likes to do, yeah, maybe he would have turned out to be a little bit like, maybe he would have had a couple of titles or whatever. But I think you gotta respect and love the fact that we don't know if that is true. If he had that, maybe he would have become nothing, because maybe he wouldn't have liked his life as much, or maybe he wouldn't have done enough things with other balls, which would have made him a worse floorball player. Like, I think all of these hypotheticals that you want to do about a person, I think you should be a little bit careful with it, though there might be some truth into that. And you also hear rumors about him stopping playing and stuff like this, and now he keeps on playing. But I think from an entertainment perspective, number one in the world.
Exactly. And like speaking on this topic about these guys who maybe you want to say have such a great potential and they are not using it, maybe this maybe the topic we are touching on a little bit. But I think I also follow a lot of other sports and enjoy a lot of other sports, and with friends we have had conversations about players like Nick Kyrgios in tennis. Maybe you know him.
Yeah.
Like I hated him so much because I just saw the talent in him. Okay, I'm not the expert in tennis, but you know.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
When you see Michael Jordan, when you see someone playing great, you know that they are amazing. And then we discussed about this, and I was so angry at him always. Like I couldn't respect him at all because he's just not using. Like because Gustav's also is like me. Like we wanna train hard, and when we are with the team or when we are doing some drills, we wanna do everything like so good that. But it also depends on our talent. Like we had to do it maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So there's many things going into it. But I have grown to appreciate guys like Nick Kyrgios and players like that, which you'd never know. Like they need maybe this. Like you look at Doncic needs maybe drink of beer to like be special. Like they need this freedom kind of in their life to be that, because without that they maybe could never be so good. So there's maybe not even the potential to be greater. That's just who they are, and
That was exactly the point I was making as well, Petris. I agree 100%. Like, we don't know if he would have been even close to what he is had he had all of these other things that we think he's missing, because then maybe he wouldn't have turned out to be anything. So, yeah, it's kind of the same thing. I was thinking about that the other day. It's kind of the same reasoning, like when you drive to work and then you can drive right or you can drive left to work, and then you drive left and then the police is there, gets you a ticket for speeding, and you go, why did I go left? I should have gone right. But then the times you go left but the police is right, you never know about that time, right? So then you won't be angry about that. And it feels like this is kind of the same kind of argument with people where we don't know what Nick Kyrgios would have turned out had he been trying to use more of his talent or whatever.
Or you go left and there's police, but if you go right, maybe there's some accident and the road is slippery and it can end much worse for you. So
exactly.
That's good way of putting it.
Yeah.
That's human nature, basically. And like, to continue with the big players, I think like right now, if we talk about I think floorball as a sport, like there's a pretty young star like rising, and he has a dad who is even a bigger star, and I think it would be like kind of like valuable to go into this topic, like, and I mean, I think you guys know I'm talking about Gabriel Kohonen, and like how do you see him as a player, and I think how do you see him, like is he like really that valuable for the sport right now to like kind of be, I think, the face of like, I think it's like Swedish floorball, for example, in some way, because you can also see that when they're like trying to like market the world championships, like he is the guy, and I think if we go to the YouTube of SSL highlights, like he's the guy who's having like his highlights there. So is he like a guy who's gonna help us like grow the sport? What do you think?
I think he is. Yeah, I think there are mainly two things that fascinate me with him, and the one thing is how he is able to combine functional stuff with circus stuff, right? He'll do his spinoramas and his stuff, but there's actually function to it. Like, he protects the ball, he throws the keeper off, or he does like these entertaining stuff but finds a function out of it, which I think is really cool. And the other thing is just the way he shoots the ball, just the sheer velocity of him shooting the ball. Like, I remember we like I said, I work as a game and player developer for THORENGRUPPEN's both SSL teams. Like, this season we had both SSL teams, and I don't, it was actually last season we had Storvreta, I think, in like the first game, and I know we'd just gotten Kaltiainen in net. And I wasn't watching the game live, I think, but I was like tracking the game afterwards. And Kohonen scores a goal from our bench, like the top of our bench. And I do this, like you've seen this. I filter the scoring chances from the danger of them, and it was like a mid-low type of shot because there was no one in the way. It was so far off. And I went to Johan Lindgren, who's the men's team coach in THORENGRUPPEN, and I said, like, that he shouldn't Kaltian have had that one? And then Lindgren goes, well, I understand that you think so, but I was there and I saw the ball, and I was like, I know he shouldn't have had that one. That's a crazy shot. Like, he curves it and he shoots with this velocity. So yeah, I think these two things, the velocity of his shot and just the function / circus nature of his game.
Yeah, and I don't like the shot is clearly like amazing, but I think when you just like look at, for example, like his games, and I remember I was in under 19s where he was like playing for Sweden, and just like if you just look at his play style, he's a guy who like wants to play with the ball, right, all the time. And when he gets the ball, you feel like he's gonna create something, and he's like looking for it all the time. So it's not just the shot; it's also like the dangerosity of his like passing game, right?
Yep.
The diagonal he can find, and is it also like according to your like risk reward like decision making like framework? Is he making like those like really good decisions where even though you have like, I don't know, one or two players in the passing lane, he still can find like his guy who has like an empty net, right? So, and of course it wouldn't go like it wouldn't go through every time, but if it does, like he gets like an assist and the team scores a goal. So is that also like a big factor to his game?
Yeah, it is, for sure. I think this system, of course, then will promote players who are good at finding reward. Like, my system is built on chasing a reward, not trying to avoid risk, actually. So I will live with risk, especially if the reward is high. And with him, of course, with his just pure skills, the reward will get pretty increased just because of the fact he will, of course, overperform expected goals and stuff like this. Like he's going to be an overperformer compared to the average SSL player all the time. So that pushes what he's allowed to do with the ball, I think. So he's probably allowed to do a couple of more mistakes if needed. Because he will be so dangerous when he hits his pass. And I agree with you, like his shot is a good springboard for people having to give his shot respect, so he opens up passing lanes and stuff like this. And I also think he has a sneaky underrated stick on defense. Like I wouldn't say he's a good defensive player, but he's not a weak defensive player. Like I thought when he was one of the better Swedes in terms of stealing balls and stuff like this in Malmö. So I think it's a little bit sneaky underrated.
Yeah, for sure. I think he has definitely an idea of how he wants to forecheck, and like I think also the best forecheckers, they have like a thing about them that they're more looking at the eyes of the defender than the ball itself. So then they're kind of like reading the defender of like what is his like decision making, and I think that's like also kind of like creates some kind of like scare in the defenders, so that they feel that they're like I don't know. I think it's a psychological thing, but I think he's also one of the guys who has that, just like also Ulriksson, for example. And yeah, that's like definitely like he's the first defender, right? And if you're like smart about how you forecheck, you can like do a lot of things that way.
I think there's another interesting thing there that applies to the modern world, and that everything is getting filmed and stuff. He's also a guy who can put you on a poster, right? He's a guy who can put you on a YouTube clip.
Yeah, like
I think that's also definitely a factor that, you know, when you defend him, you know that you need to be aware, because he can put you on a YouTube clip at any time, just how he plays, and it's a weird factor, but I think it's slowly creeping into people's lives. So it's also a thing.
Yeah, that's a good aspect. I hadn't thought about it. And as like kind of the other guy who was I think very very like important to mention, Justus Kainulainen. I don't know how much you have seen him play, but us both, at least, we clearly acknowledge his abilities, and also our national team coach is very closely related to him. So how do you see him as a player? What makes him so special?
Yeah, amazing player. I don't know like his training habits and stuff like this, but he for sure looks like he's become a real athlete with the years, and I love his aura, just how he, you know, he celebrates his goals, and I thought he just put the Finnish team in his backpack and just dragged them over the goal line at the Worlds, obviously with his shots, but also, like I said, the aura and how he looks, how he seems to be a guy who can pull teammates with him. Of course, saying this without knowing him, but Esa made him a captain even, right? In the Finnish team. Is he the captain?
Nico was the captain, but
Nico
he
was
was
the captain.
in certain stages of preparation camps. He was the captain also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, makes sense. So he's part of the leadership group for sure. Then, so he of course has to be a good leader. Yeah, he's also, I think his playmaking skills are also, of course, a little bit underrated. Probably, of course, the way his shots is, then of course people are gonna focus on his shot. Yeah, fantastic player. Does so much for the sport, and it's cool that these guys can keep up a rivalry for 10 years now.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that shooting and the 6G you mentioned. Like from there, Kohonen shouldn't score like so effectively, but like, does it happen in now preparing for other teams? Like, I don't know, someone's coming up against Verkopio, it's not the same XG for her than it's for other players. So also preparing for those players a little bit differently. How it's for coach, this kind of aspect.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, there are for sure every team has a couple of them where you need to know some tendencies so you can take away part of their potential overachieving. But I think you see that generally in the sport now. It isn't that tough to be close on an XG level in games. The tough thing is to have players who can outperform XG or outperform certain situations in terms of 2-on-1s and breakaways and stuff like this. So the difference between shooting the goalie in the breastplate and hitting a top corner is vast, but sometimes in XG it might not look like that, and that's of course a thing you need to keep in mind.
Yeah, an interesting aspect also about this Justus line, but how it's like the whole line is like built around him. Like I don't know how many players in the world. How did we? I think we lost. Oh,
I'm back, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they're back.
I don't know what happened. North Sweden, you know, guys.
It's all good. What I was saying, yeah, the lines, how we build the lines, and how we build maybe some lines around certain players, and for sure we know. Maybe Gustas can tell better this story, but Justus' line was created like kind of around him and around this shooting threat, and we see these three lefties in the forward, and like it's important to point out these great players, but also like how, because floorball is so like free for, as we spoke about, these defenders playing forward and forwards playing defense. It's so free for everyone to have an effect. So I think the line's importance also is so huge for any good player. I don't know, like any player who has played like without great players around him. So, but because in basketball, I would say it's a little bit more possible, or other sports, to have this kind of like bigger effect as a lone player.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for sure, I mean, I think floorball has that more than hockey has, because of course a floorball play could be sneaking up on 30 minutes in a game if you count special teams in it. But like you say, like NBA playoffs, LeBron James can do 46 out of 48 minutes, of course, and you can give him the ball on every possession because people can't stop him from getting the ball. And that's of course not the same thing in floorball. Like if someone wants to take away the Justus Kainulainen pocket, then they just put a guy there and then he can't get the ball in the pocket. So I 100% agree about that. And that's of course a big tactical aspect of game planning and stuff like this, where it also felt that, I mean, they were maybe able to free roam a little bit too much on their left side against Sweden, so they could find him with one-timers and stuff like this. It isn't, of course, that tough to understand how they want to build up their play when they're only lefties.
And speaking more about this philosophical point of yours about this system and intuition, also watched a couple of clips, like for example when Sweden is winning the ball, there was one clip, Emil Johansson gets the ball in the middle of their own defense and finds the right pass, like with the right moment, finds the next pass. And but I wanted to push back a little bit on this in a way that isn't there, it's part of of course individual skill, intuition, but also the system in certain ways, how teams put, for example, Emil Johansson in these situations more.
Yeah.
So he is the player who is making those decisions in those plays. So that's like part of the system. And also these wingers, super important, the system, where are these routes where they run and how to exploit those. And I have seen, especially in Finland, because the defenses are much better, I would say on average, than Swedish. What I have seen from, and we prepare in Finland much more like defensively, so it's harder to break those defenses. So in here, many top teams focuses more on these counterattacks and make system about counterattacks, how we can break the team when we win the ball. So I think it's part of a system also when you talk about intuition and system. That of course, it goes both ways.
No,
like
I agree.
You can't have one out of without each other. But I'm interested, like how you influence those also in your trainings, for example. How when you win the ball, like do you have like 7 reels about where players should run, and you have to put the ball like in offensive end, because there's an argument that if you have a great player who doesn't lose a ball that easily, he should be a winger. So you just throw the ball, for example, sometimes to him. If there's like 3 players pressing you, throw like a random ball, even if you can't make a blade-to-blade pass. But he will get the ball first, and then he can start the attack from offensive end. So we don't have to make this opening structure and opening game in our own end if we calm the game down, for example. So not even scoring the goal, but to getting the ball in offensive end and having the ball there and start attack from there, even though you don't have an advantage to go one against goalie or whatever.
I think you're making a very good point. It's a solid one. I think to get back to your original question about like systems and intuition and how they co-work with each other, I've been studying this a little bit, and I think my conclusion at the time is that I think like a structured framework in terms of, for an example, how you want to play offense, transition, or everything, what it does for the players is it helps them reacting quickly. So if someone can assume what's going to happen, so we win the ball over there, then the guesstimation, so to speak, from our players will be a little bit better if they know that if I take this route, there's a 70% chance he might see me. If I don't take this route, there's a 35% chance he might see me, or he might think I do something else. So I think the patterns and the systems, it just helps you reacting a little bit easier and a little bit quicker, and you gain a certain amount of time and you slow down like the pace of the game a little bit. I think that's how they go hand in hand, and then after that intuition just takes over. So system can give you 0.5 extra seconds because you know how most probably people are going to react in certain situations, and then intuition takes over.
Yeah, and there's some really interesting stuff that we're talking about here. But I think now we are kind of, we have talked enough kind of like about the past and about like how like about like the floorball in the past. But so I would like to go a little bit into the what's happening right now and kind of ask you what is your prediction in the SSL? Who do you think is gonna win? And first of all, how did we manage to have 3 game sevens in this Swedish highest league?
Yeah, good point. I think in terms of predictions, I'm going to make you disappointed. I just hate predicting, so I'm not going to predict. I'd made this a thing when I was coaching. Maybe you've heard this story. I'll take it again because I think it's funny myself. Of course, when I was coaching Pixbo, for example, there were always these VIP people eating somewhere, sponsors before the game. You go up, la la la, they talk to you, and then in the end, they always ask, "Oh, so what do you think about the game?" In the beginning, I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna win 7-4, one empty netter in the end," and then I just got bored of myself, and I thought, "Who gives a, bleep about what I think?" So I started saying it's going to be 15-0 to us. So I went 15-0 every time. And of course, you can imagine people are, half of them are drunk, half of them are not drunk, half of them think you're funny, half of them think you're the biggest idiot ever. So I just kept on saying 15-0 all the time as soon as I got to predict something, and it was very funny just seeing the reactions of people. But to get into the stuff that I actually can talk about is the analysis part of it and the game sevens. And I think one thing there is just that the teams were not able to rack off a couple of good games in a row because there are so many turnarounds in terms of teams overperforming at times. I thought just like the individuals of the team, like Malte Lundmark had himself a night, and then in the Mulche series, for an example, then Pelle Tarenius had himself a night, and then they just kept on exchanging blows back and forth. And I thought the teams were actually not good enough to put up consecutive good efforts when the others did some kind of re-game planning, which I think was very interesting to see. And then, of course, it's, even though I know in Sweden now, like game sevens are almost always won by the home team so far, we haven't got that big of a history because game sevens haven't existed for such a long time. But yeah, it's it was a little bit surprising. But the thing is here, and you guys know too, I think some of the teams also do not do a lot of scouting before it turns to playoffs. So it's really tough to predict what you're going to get until you go into the Game 7 series where everyone all of a sudden cares. Everyone is locked in. Everyone is game planning. And I thought that was part of it, what we saw. Though I think that Linköping maybe shouldn't have gone to 7.
Okay, that's interesting. And for, you just mentioned that the regular seasons are kind of, I mean, yes, you do not have as much time, and probably you don't want to put as much effort into like analyzing those games. But also for you as a coach, would like playoffs the time where you like spend much more time into kind of analyzing the opposite team, or was it kind of like distributed between both?
Mm-hmm. I liked having like a pattern to keep up with, just to do the same things, same habits, that kind of stuff. But for sure, I did more during playoffs than I did during regular season. But I think when I was coaching Pixbo, for example, I think we were doing more during the regular season than a lot of other teams were, and that's why we ended up like second and third, and we won the SSL during my time with Pixbo. We did not have the best team. And then when we came to playoffs, we lost a couple of semifinals against Falun, for an example, where I think they just caught up on doing the same things that we did, and our edge kind of disappeared a little bit. But I'm also, like, I think it's very important for the team to want to get prepared. I thought we had that established in Pixbo, where, like, if I remember once where I just didn't have the energy to find a corner free hit defense from the opponent in one game during the SSL regular season. So I went, they won't notice. I just won't do it. And then I did the pregame video, and then Isak Rosén comes over to me. Hey, David, how do they defend that? Free hits in the corner? And I was like, you noticed. I thought you didn't notice. They play the 2-on-2 or whatever. So I think that's a cool thing. Like, when players care, you know that you've done something right in terms of wanting to know how the opponent's going to play to be able to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I think it heavily depends on the player, so it's about who want to know. And for some, I think it's even like better. I'm not sure like if Zaugg is a good example, but maybe like like those guys who are like playing really heavily based on intuition, they would rather not know as much and just like play the game as they play it, and they will perform better than actually like kind of analyzing the opposite team and what the right defender is doing, and is he playing backhand or forehand. So yeah,
Yanni Zaugg is a little bit both. I think he probably wasn't the most active one. I totally agree that, you have to make sure as a coach that your storytelling is good when you're trying to turn analytics into a game plan or whatever, that you don't rack up numbers to people, but you kind of sell it in a way. I don't know if he was the most active guy during pregame videos or stuff like this, but an example of him actually caring a lot is that during penalty shootouts, he always wants to go number 3 because he wants to see the opposing goalie twice before he decides what to do, for an example. So there are sides of him that really does care about stuff that you might not think. So he's a little bit both, probably.
That's a very interesting, I would say, an insight, so to say. Mm-hmm. So going from Jan Zaugg to NLA, I would have asked you the prediction of NLA, but I guess it's clear. It's clear.
I'm gonna lie and say that someone's gonna win 15-0 in the finals.
So, are you watching NLA regularly, or some regular season games, or?
I'm not watching that much anymore. I saw a game of Tigers Könitz. I've seen some Grasshoppers games during the season. I saw Turgau. I've seen a couple of times. So yeah, I actually saw Öster Zug live when I was in Switzerland last time. So I've seen a couple of games. I do follow it, but not as tightly, of course, anymore.
Do you have certain team which you like the playing style, or you want to watch more than others, maybe?
Yeah, I really like watching Turgau. I've also heard a lot of good things about the Finnish coach there, who people really seem to like. I don't know him very well personally. I've met him a couple of times. He seems to be a great guy, but it's cool to see Yannick Fitzi. And I've been, during my years in Switzerland, I've also seen a lot of these guys. Graf as well, like how they've turned into good SSL players from being like 13, 14 years old and going to the floorball school in Erlen and stuff like this. And I also know Olli Oilinki really well, who I really like and appreciate, who's the U19 men's coach. So I have a soft spot for them. I also have a soft spot for Grasshoppers because of Luan Missini, who I mentioned before, who's in the club but not in the team anymore. But yeah, now it feels like it's with Wheeler out and with neither Könitz or Tigers looking maybe strong enough to really push Zug in. Of course, it's one game, so stuff could happen, but of course, a lot of things are looking good for Zug at the time.
Did you watch the final of the cup?
I actually did not. I don't think I even saw the goals. Winterthur won, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think Zug had all the chances that they needed, but it was like just a game that Winterthur had to win. even the goals were not the most beautiful ones, so to say. In the end, it's about who scores more of them. So definitely that game, it was a long-awaited cup for Club Intertour probably. So I think they can, in one way, happy with how the season went. But on the Zaugg topic, like we're now seeing, and there's many more rumors of a lot of more superstars going to NLA. I'm not sure during like in the history. I'm not sure how was it, but isn't this like the time where there are the most amount of kind of like the top players going to the Swiss highest league? And I'm just like interested in how you think this will develop and what that does mean for the floorball world.
Great question. I think there was this time when I was down there where like Johan Samuelsson and Kim Nilsson and Tatu Väänänen and a couple of other like almost peak versions of themselves were down there. And then it got back to almost no one being there, and now comes like a second wave of. I think I have a pretty strong opinion on this one. I'd be totally fine, with people cloning Johan Samuelssons and Tatu Väänänens and Justus Kainulainens and Albin Sjögrens and Tobbe Gustafssons and Robin Nilsberts and putting 3 of them in each team. I'd be totally fine with that. I don't think that's a problem at all. I think I wouldn't put 5 of them on each team. I'd put 3 of them on each team, and I would just get rid of the Allsvenskan Swedes who they get in there and the clubs have to fight to get them jobs and fight to get them employment and everything, and then they are not good at floorball, but they still stick to the PP1 because they just fought so hard to get them there, and they're the ones that are in the way for Swiss players. But I mean, though in the end it comes down to Switzerland just making sure that they have good enough own players so they don't need to get these Allsvenskan Swedes anymore. But the top guys, bring on the top guys. I have no problem with that.
I had an idea that could it be good for the sport that Swiss become like NHL of floorball, because there is the money aspect of it and players could be more professional, not like in Sweden right now or Finland, maybe. And the second league of Swiss could become like really good, and then the Swiss players still have a chance to play good. And then in Switzerland you have so much good floorball that, of course, it depends how the floorball develops and how much actually people care about it and they want to watch it. But there will be like 2 great leagues, and one is like the world's best league, and then the other one is for Swiss players, more or less. I don't know. This is like maybe dream.
Utopian dream.
Yeah,
it's
dream.
An interesting thought for sure. I just want to make clear here for people listening who don't know this that in a way the money is there, but the thing here that we need to know is that if I compare Sweden to Switzerland, like a basic salary is double the amount in Switzerland, and the taxes are way less. So if you come down as a player, you have no kids and you have no grandmas and grandpas that you have to take care of in terms of money, because that costs a lot of money. Like daycare is crazy expensive. For example, if you come down without kids and you get a contract from a club and they organize you a 50% job, and then they say they give you some money from the floorball side of it, then you get help with an apartment, a car, some insurance and stuff like this. Then you look at the number that you're actually having on your account, you'll go, oh, Jesus, it's a lot of money for playing floorball. But the money does not come from floorball. The money comes from your 50% job. That is just double the amount of the payment for a 50% job that you're used to. So you think the money is from floorball, but the money is mainly from you just doing a 50% job that anyone could do in Switzerland. And if you don't have any kids, then you don't need a lot of money, and then you're good. So in that way, yes, there's money, but not necessarily on the floorball side.
Yeah, exactly. And I think even if we look at Zaugg, I think the top players are also having like good conditions job wise, so they are still like having that job on the side. So it's more about the clubs finding those jobs than about clubs actually paying them like a huge amount of money. So that's kind of like the main thing here. But still, like it's an attraction, right? So it's
sure it is
more than you will get like somewhere else. And if you look at the country itself, it's amazing. I mean, everything's like the close. Your furthest like bus ride is maybe like 2 to 3 hours, and like in Sweden, what is it like 13 hours would be like a kind of like away game that you could have. So I mean, the conditions for a floorball player here would be close to perfect for at least floorball world. So in
dream
that
come
sense,
true. Dream come true. Like what a country. People are nice. Mountains are amazing. Everything's controlled. It's all good. Though there's this side of it. I think Gustavs, you're probably noticing this. Like, do you know any music export from Switzerland? No, because there's no time to play the guitar, right? You'll see that the thing is that there's just no entertainment stuff coming out of Switzerland because there's no spare time for people. And if you look Scandinavia, of course, Sweden, we're spoiled with having people successful in sports and in entertainment business and stuff like this because here there's time, but we're lazy, and the Swiss are not. So there are these obvious pluses and minuses. Like there's no country in the world, I think, where the pluses and minuses are more defined than they are in Switzerland.
Yeah, that's a good take probably. So that also takes a bit away from the whole utopian dream that Bede has.
It does.
So
it does. A little bit.
A little bit, yes, at least, because if you really want to be like really invested into floorball, that's almost like a whole like full-time job almost. So you have to like invest a lot, but then if you have another full-time job which demands also a lot of energy from you, it's not easy to combine, but of course it's at least something.
No, for sure, a fascinating idea.
Yeah, definitely. What else? I think we have talked about a lot today, and I want to ask all you also like another question. I think you have watched a lot of floorball in your career, and you've mentioned that many times. But would you still say that you enjoy watching floorball as much as you did in the past? Is it still as exciting for you, or has it changed in any way?
It's a good question. I thought about it, and yeah, it fascinates me. It fascinates me in another way, though. Like it's the decision making part has taken over from the he shot it top corner, what a goal. Like I'm probably a little bit like I said, injured from my time and from the thought process that I put into the sport. So it's at another level, but I think it's extremely entertaining, and I actually love watching low division floorball. Like I love go watch a division 2 side in Sweden, and if I get a chance, of course, with kids and everything, it's tough to get the time, but I love the chaos of it sometimes. Like just shutting off the brain and just looking at chaotic floorball is also still fun. So I enjoy the game.
Yeah, that's also like I think from the fan perspective, it's not always that the fans are looking for the highest quality floorball. They're looking for the most entertaining floorball, right? So it's also a topic. If like floorball also to grow, do we need like more of that of like offensive side of floorball growing, and for us also a bit maybe not forgetting, but spending a little bit less time into like how to defend well, but then to how we can create more like a higher score every game. That's like from
I think we needed to grow. I think we shouldn't mix it up though with the right for every team to play exactly how they want to. Like I hate when people go, oh, they shouldn't be playing man or they shouldn't stand back. Let them do exactly what they want to. They're just competing. But in terms of your question, in terms of developing or making the sport grow, yeah, I do think we need that. I have this picture in my head. I'm not a great handball fan, but I love the thing in handball that people can score any second. Like when they're playing their 6-0 defense and there are these 2-meter dudes with a ball, it could just go bum anytime. And if it goes bum and it hits a crossbar and they go the other way in offense transition, then you almost know it's a goal. I love this, this 14,000 drunk Germans just cheering on a team because the ball can go into the net every second. I hope we could see that in floorball sometimes. Like the offense will go so much better that if someone just goes 2-on-2 50%, they just get shot down, kind of. That's where I hope that we will go. So in that terms, yes, I think more offense can help out for the game.
Okay, so then we need a rule change then, maybe like a bigger goal or something.
I hope we don't. I hope we can just be make sure that we're get better with the ball. And I think that's definitely coming when I see like the youth players here in Sweden, what they can do with the ball and the blade and the stick. So I think we're getting there, but once again, decision making is going to be huge.
Yeah, for sure. Do you still, Peter, have something you would love
to ask? What create a line right now in a world of floorball? Like, what kind of line would you take from existing players right now?
Mm-hmm.
And you can also have idea from past also, but
no, I'll go here and now. That's cool. I'll have Jon Hedlund in net. I'll pull Emil Johansson down, make him play defense. I'll put Nemecek next to him. I'll go 2 righties for sure. So give me Albin Sjögren and Gabriel Kohonen, though none of them are perfectly placed in the middle, but it doesn't matter. And yeah, I think, of course, I should put a Finn there maybe because Justus is amazing, but the way Zacharias Ulriksson plays right now, it's almost impossible not to have him there. So I think that would be a very Swedish, but the Czech Nemecek coming in there type of first line. That would be something.
Why did you mention like 2 righties in offense for sure? Is it like big point for you? Like, or
yeah, I think there still are a lot of systems that will come from the right in some way. Like there are the 1-2 systems that might steer onto a point player from the right, and there are the M systems or the 2-1s that will go asymmetrical from one side and push teams to the right. And I just love the advantage of having more righties than lefties to be able to make them oversteer and open up like gaps when passing the ball. And I like the right combinations that you can do against these kind of teams. So I think that's a little bit of an overlooked factor. And also I kind of enjoy watching righties play. I don't know what it is. It's something that it makes it visually pleasing for me to see righties who have good technique.
I think that's the first time I've heard somebody appreciate righties, because
I love righties.
In Latvian we even have like a, not like a bad word for them, but you call it like a nickname, like the unusual side as it was in the past. So I think that's nice to hear. So for us,
I'm the other way around. Yeah.
Keeping fantasizing. Let's say 2 other lines of this team you have are pretty good enough, so you can play in 3 lines, and this first line is can play full energy every shift. Like, what's the idea how they are playing without the ball, and how they are playing without the ball?
I like the framework thing there as well. Like, I want players to know like the patterns of how we want to defend, not necessarily being ready to know by heart exactly every position, but like the main ways of bringing the ball up, I want my players to know. And I like the 1-2 or whatever you want to call it, like the hybrid system between man and zone. So I'd have the wingers playing a pretty zonal based game just to get stops on the court. Like, I don't like the 5 times man because then the opponent can just run away with my players and they have to run away with them. So I like the zonal element to having 2 forwards that basically try to force the opponents to bad angles and bad entries. And then I like having the 3 man players below, but I don't want them manning too early. So I want them to have like clear responsibilities in terms of zonal responsibilities, so that they can attack entries into a certain part of the court that I like to paint up. It's a tough one, but like, think of it like a wide zone between the 2 pockets and the high slot. So once the ball comes in there, I want people to stay pretty zonal, and then after the first duel or the first close encounter comes up, then you switch into manning more or less. So it's not rocket science at all, but I like that.
Yeah, is it like because when the kind of the first in fight happens, like the guy or the team with the ball, for them it's much like harder to make the decisions at that point. So playing a man at that point like makes sense, right?
Yeah, I think so too. I like to put it death by 1,000 paper cuts. Like, it's you don't use your knife to kill someone, you use a paper and you cut them. 1,000 times before they die. Sounds a little bit morbid when you say it like that, but I think that's kind of it. So I don't want to let go of the pressure there. I don't like teams then moving into like a more zonal based structure, because I think that lets teams get away from bad positions. So I slowly want them to just force themselves into worse and worse conditions, and that's where I think that the man-man strategy after the ball having entered the zone is an important thing.
Again, the decision making, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yeah, for sure. It all is.
We didn't prepare you with this question, but I know that you are kind of person in coaching that you don't want to steal too much or watch too much other coaches or talk to them too much, or so you have your own ideas, and you can keep being creative and finding new things in floorball. But has there been any coach or player which has like kind of changed your thinking after some conversation? Like of course there are many these conversations, but like really like actually change your approach to like certain aspect of the game or certain thing in your like philosophy or attacking or defensive or positioning or something like that?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. Like, there's a guy called Fredrik Holmgren who's been working for this Swedish floorball school that is up here in Umeå, where they pick students from the entire country. He and Peter Svensson, both of these guys, I think they have been eye openers for me, because I thought they were early with having strategies with the ball, and they've been thinking outside of the box a little bit. But other than that, not really. I respect everyone with an idea, honestly. Like, as soon as someone has an idea, bad or good, so to speak, from my point of view, I actually don't really care. I've seen too many without ideas, and that frustrates me. So as soon as someone has an idea, I'm pretty easy to please. But the thing with me not really having idols or not caring too much about reading what Pep Guardiola does and stuff like this is just I don't work very well when I do stuff like that, because I get put into a pattern, and then I'm struggling with thinking freely. So I'd rather just watch basketball, steal something, watch lacrosse, steal something, and call it my own. And then afterwards, I'll of course see that 5 other people stole the same stuff or came up with the same stuff their own ways. But it just works better for me that way.
Also more innovative for the sport, probably.
Yeah, I'd want to think so.
Yeah, but also like the guys who are kind of like stealing from you, there is kind of, even in that sense, I think you even invent a lot, because you're just inventing is kind of like taking something that's already existing and then turning into something upgraded in some way, and that's how it has been like evolving. So I think in that sense, it's not even as bad that way. Having guys who are stealing from you and trying to upgrade your ideas. So that's yeah.
I guess it's the biggest compliment there is, right? Someone trying to steal your ideas. That's a cool thing.
Yeah,
you don't want to give that compliment yet to other coaches.
No, that's true. That's true.
About other sports, what kind of sports are you watching?
Watching a lot of NBA. I'm fascinated by the way analytics can change it, but it doesn't really get into Moneyball baseball-ish, but it hits a good tone, I think, like how much analytics matter. I also like just the way the players are. They say whatever they want to in interviews. I think that's very makes me happy somehow that they're free. I like that a lot. I watch American football now and then. I do watch some hockey now and then, but I don't think there's too much to take out of hockey. But NBA, amazing sport. Just impressed by the amount of plays that they have and how they play call, and just the intelligence of the players. Like I said, love listening to them in interviews when they will mention stats on their own. Like, they'll take the paper that they get from the game and they'll go, "Oh, he had 15 rebounds with his left hand," and then they can talk for hours about that, because they understand the game. I think it's cool.
Golden State, maybe.
Yeah, I think they're interesting. Like, it's been interesting to see the Jimmy Butler part of it, though I'm a Portland Trailblazers fan, so I've been suffering for a couple of years now.
So you know Jimmy High Roller as well?
Dude.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's the analytics guy that the most NBA fans would probably watch. So he has a great way of turning data into storytelling. So
Yeah, it's really cool.
yeah, it's really cool. So I think we have a lot to learn from him in floorball as well, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, and there's a channel for Golden State. There's some random guy, I don't know how he is related, but he's a fan of Golden State, I guess, and he makes after every game some short clip, like you do, for example, about certain games, and really going deep because he knows every play of the team. So
It's
he
so
has
cool.
his, and I'm just watching it like now and then. It's like 7-minute clip every day, and
It's so good.
I'm
That's
just
the
for my
modern
geek
world.
brain.
Yeah, that's the benefits of the modern world. Like, there are a lot of things to complain about with the world at the moment, like we know, with the development that's happening, like politically and everything. But there are these small snippets of good things as well, luckily enough.
Yes, that's true. Good that you can, good that we can appreciate those. So
You gotta have the glass half full, guys. The glass has to be half full, not half empty.
Yes,
Otherwise, you'll die unlucky.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
We touched on past, a little bit on the present. How about future? How's your future looking like? Are you looking for? Are you interested to work in national teams or some clubs in future?
Yeah, I think I'll be living in Umeå. That's how it feels right now. The company thing has started out great, and I love working with THORENGRUPPEN. It's been really fun. They have a collection of great guys, and the coaches, the women's coach Donny Lambert, for example, is an amazing guy that I learn a lot from. So my life's really good the way it is right now. But I could imagine coming into working for an association again. But I'm for sure way more picky. Like, I don't want to float my own boat too much or bang my own drum too much, but I've been in touch with more or less every SSL team there is for coaching positions over the last couple of years, and at the moment I just like living here. I like my life here, but I could see myself getting into it again, but I'll be picky probably. But like, national team stuff does excite me, and I would be ready to do another like big thing, but I'm way more picky, like I said, and I do, after having been 8 years in Switzerland and 5 of them traveling back and forth from North Sweden, I also like being with my kids. And people in THORENGRUPPEN always laugh and they say that I'm the only dad who actually wants to be with my kids. So we'll see. I'd be open, but I'd be picky.
Yeah.
Who won the last Nintendo game? Against you and your son?
Yeah, the thing is, we played. We actually I got him a used PlayStation 4 now, because he playing some FIFA and NHL and everything, and he's getting really good. Like, I'm good at Mario Kart, so I'll be better there. He's good at Splatoon on the Nintendo, so I of course we do not face each other, but he's almost as good as I am. So I think I'm still on the throne, but he's getting there faster than I'd like to. He's 6.5 years old.
It's coming.
He's coming for sure. Yes.
Yeah. You cannot dodge it. Also about the future, what happens to THORENGRUPPEN now? I think. Is it true that the kind of the top players of the men's team are going away, and is the club actually existing next year?
No, the men's team is not existing, and it's a tough one up here. Like, having both women's and men's SSL team at the same time is tough. Like, the player budget was minimal for the team, so they were not in a good economical situation the way it is. But then, since Corona, with how much more expensive travel has become and everything, it's just been really tough for the club to manage 2 teams. So I thought they did a good job in terms of being transparent with the players early enough, so they could seek out new clubs already during the season, instead of just waiting until now and then going, by the way, we can't play next season. So there won't be a men's team, which I think was really sad, because we had something going until they came up with a definitive answer that we won't be having a team last year, and then the team struggled down the road. But we had a good season with them. Like, underlying numbers were really strong, and the women's team is great, obviously, and the women's team will for sure survive. So I will just change my duties a little bit within the club and start working a little bit more on. We will have another men's team playing in the first division. I'll be with them a little bit, and I'll be with the women's team a little bit more. So I'll keep on being there, but there will be no men's SSL.
Has there been, like, from human side, hard decisions in the men's players team? Because of course top players maybe are getting opportunity to move other places and stuff, but there's those in everything. There's those players who are like kind of loyal to the team or have been so many years here and can't move around. And how about them? Do they have a chance to play in other teams?
Yeah, thing is, I thought they handled it great. They really tried to keep on checking in at our practices and tried to do as well as they could. And the club and the sports chef tried to give them like some windows where they could go and visit other teams, so that everyone knew when these windows were, that they could travel away and not practice with us and stuff like this. So I thought everyone just gave it a go as good as possible. And actually, I think everyone on the team would have continued had they had a chance to. So they were waiting as long as they could to sign with other teams, because they still thought and hoped that we would have a chance to stay together, which I thought was really cool. And that's of course not what people said about THORENGRUPPEN like 10 years ago, when everyone thought that they were spoiled and overpaid and stuff like this. This is a really strong group of guys, but it's going to be really interesting to follow some of them, like the quartet that went to Växjö with Hampus Ögren, Axel Hjelm, Måns Höglin, and Hugo Bertilsson. Amazing players and amazing human beings. So that will be it's going to be interesting to see if they will keep them as a line and just add a Växjö guy and just let them play our system that we played, because they were dynamite for us this season.
Okay. Yeah.
Kind of sad story for men's, but at the same time, I have to mention the women's team. Like, it's great that you can do something like that with the women's team, and we have seen videos from locker rooms and how this professionalism is brought.
So good.
And for women's, I think floorball as a commercial also, like, it's a great thing. And maybe you want to touch on this season a little bit about the women's season and how it's looking in the future.
Yeah, I think it was a cool thing that, I mean, obviously it wasn't a cool thing to not have the men's team anymore, but THORENGRUPPEN has been pretty clear on that. As long as the women's team is the more successful one, if we were playing double headers, a lot of time they were the main event. They were playing the second game, stuff like this. They are the ones having more audience on the games, and I like the players there are like, they have big egos, some of them, but I mean that in a positive way. Like, they like to prepare really well. And of course, since I came there, I don't know, 2.5 years ago, what have we lost? Like, I think one game in regular time in 2.5 years or something like that. So just crazy stuff. And then a couple of overtime losses, one in the regular season and one in the playoffs last year. So, but this is going to be a tough finish to this season. Like, the semifinals against Täby, I think, will be tougher than yesterday when we beat them 9-2, and then Pixbo has a great team, and of course we've been able to find ways to beat them in I don't know how many finals in a row almost. Now they won the Champions Cup game this year, so it's gonna be interesting to see. But they're a really cool group of players who really want to get better.
Yeah, for sure. And is THORENGRUPPEN also like not the only club in Sweden who are like having also like financial difficulties to keep up with the kind of the standards and the requirements needed? Is it true that also Falun and Storvreta has also some problems?
Yeah, exactly. And FC Helsingborg, and there's been a lot of rumors about Kalmarsund for a couple of years, and
yeah,
I think there are a lot of teams that are struggling for sure. And yeah, I mean, you understand that the way costs are, and of course not having enough sponsors or not enough people coming and watching the games to make it sustainable yet. So tough one, but I hope they'll find a way.
Yeah, and is like what does that mean for the sport, kind of like, because it does like raise some like questions in that sense, because
it does, but I think at the same time, I guess it's also kind of good that it, puts emphasis on this, that the teams that will handle this stuff will also be the ones that will have success in the long run. So I guess the system will sort itself out. I think it's tragic, of course, when it happens, but I think long term it will settle itself.
Okay, it's good to hear that you're positive on that one.
I think so. I think it will settle itself.
Yeah, I guess it's a good time to say a big thank you for being our first international floorball guest at the Floorball Show, and we hope we'll have many more to come. And yeah, it has been amazing to talk with you for today. So thank you.
My pleasure, guys. My pleasure. Thanks for having me, and thanks for doing this great job for the sport. And keep up the great work with the Latvian national team. I'm going to follow you guys closely. So thank you for having me once again, and have a great weekend.